Hello, welcome to another Q&A live on White Davy Garden and Worm Farm. So how are you guys doing today? I have been missing out on a lot of live discussion with you guys in the past 2 months. So I'm hoping to rectify that soon. I just have been quite busy with a lot of things that I'm trying to take care of. So today we want to discuss winter sowing in place, winter sowing in jugs, or starting seedlings indoors. And we're going to be looking at some of the advantages of winter sowing in place and winter sowing in jugs as well. Now, we live in regions, a lot of us live in regions that can be very cold during the winter, and so we may have a short growing season, or some of us simply like to get an early start because with the amount of time we have in our growing season, then it allows us to do companion planting and extend the life or the length of our growing season. So for whatever reason we may choose, the three main options that we have for starting our plants early is starting seedlings indoors, winter sowing in jugs, or winter sowing in place. Hi, Han White, how are you? Yes, so have you guys used any of these methods? Have you ever winter sown in jugs? Have you ever winter sown in place or start seedlings indoors? I have started my seedlings indoors. That is my most popular way of starting my plants indoors. Last year, of course, for the first time, I attempted winter sowing in jugs. Didn't work out so well, but then I found out what I was doing wrong. So hopefully this time around I will have it corrected. Let's see. Okay, you're not doing too badly. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so last year when I attempted my winter sowing, I couldn't figure out why it is that my seedlings were just not germinating even when the time warmed up pretty much. I couldn't figure it out, but then I was told that I'm not supposed to have corks or covers on the jugs, and I'm supposed to have holes in the jugs as well. Hi, Helpy, how are you doing? Yes, so I'm not supposed to have the jugs covered. Now, I've learned my lesson because out of 12 jugs with maybe about, I think I had about 16 different varieties of plant in those 12 jugs. And out of that, I only had two plants germinating. I actually had, what is it called, moss growing in the jugs instead of what I planted in there. So I've learned my lesson, so I will do better this time around. Hopefully, I can get an early start where that is concerned. Yeah, so the question is, have you guys done winter sowing in jugs? Have you done winter sowing in place, or do you simply use starting seedlings indoors as your means of getting an early start to your garden season? Um, so far, I have been pretty successful with starting the seedlings indoors. Um, Last year, I think, was my best attempt at it. Previous years were not too bad. Last year, the only issue that I had to deal with was fungus knots, but outside of that, it did pretty well. And each year, I tend to learn more and more about it. So I think this year should be a really good one. provided I have very good seeds, and I'm getting some seeds from a good friend of mine, Connecticut Garden and Worms. So we'll see how it works out. And her seeds that she's sending me are heirloom seeds. I've never really grown heirloom before, so I'm quite excited, looking forward to that. Let's see, LP says, I was not successful at winter sowing in jugs and water bottles last year. Yes. Well, hopefully, are you going to try it again this year? And what about winter sowing in place? Have any of you ever winter sown in place? And just for those who may not know what that is, it is when you sow your seeds similar to how you would do when the growing season starts, directly in the ground. So it's direct sowing, but the only difference is that you're doing it in the winter and then you're going to cover it with either a dome or with some form of plastic so that it can have that greenhouse um, similar result as if you were sowing the seeds in a greenhouse. So far, I've heard about it many times, but I've never really had the chance to do it. So this year, I intend to do so with a few of my plants because it does have its advantages, and we are going to be looking at some of those advantages shortly. So I can't do a comparison between the three because I've only tried two so far. And so far, my most successful method is starting my seedlings indoors. But if any of you have tried any of these three methods or you have tried two or three of them, it would be nice if you could share your experience where that is concerned. Let's see. Anne says, I've sown my peppers, that's all. Okay, so did you sow them, winter sow them, or did you start the seedlings indoors? Yeah, so if you guys have any experience with using two or three of these methods, then it would be nice if you could share your experience regarding them, which one you prefer, how well they did, stuff like that. Let's see. LB says, I don't think I will winter sow this year. I need to get my indoor gardening organized. Okay. I want to start a lot of peppers and tomatoes indoors. Okay. Yes. So, can all seeds be winter sown? And the answer to that would be no, because seeds that are tropical will not survive freezing temperatures. So tropical plants cannot be winter sown, but anything that can survive, any plant that is not tropical can be winter sown. So your lettuces, brassicas, and stuff like that, plants that are perennial, these plants can be winter sown. Let's see. LB says, last fall I planted a lot of carrots, radish, and Mizuna mustard green. Oh, never heard that term for it before. Mizuna, interesting. That never germinated. Oh, I'm sorry, my dear. I'm curious to see how many come up this year. Okay, yes. So I'm going to be winter sowing in place, but I think I'm only going to be doing that with my brassicas and lettuces this time around. Um, I might try it with carrots, but I'm not going to do a large patch just in case because I'm still going to be starting my carrots earlier than usual anyway. So, yes, because this year the plan is for any root vegetables that I normally grow rather than waiting for the growing season to start, like a few weeks, maybe a month or 3 weeks, anywhere between 2 weeks to 4 weeks before the growing season actually start. I'm going to be sowing those seeds outside because by then all the snow would have been gone. It's just that the temperature is not warm enough yet for them to start growing. So I'm going to be sowing my seeds pretty early so that as soon as it is warm enough, the plants can start growing. Okay, so what are the advantages of winter sowing in jugs? For one, they will not germinate until the temperature is warm enough. Of course, you know that sometimes we have a false start where it will get warm early and the plants will actually start to sprout, and then all of a sudden it's cold again. So sometimes that can cause the plants to die off. Hopefully, when we're doing winter sowing in jugs, then that will make a difference because the jug will act as a greenhouse and provide some heat that may be able to save the plants. But yes, one of the advantage is that the plant will not germinate until it is warm enough for it to do so. Now, one other benefit is that it does not require a lot of maintenance. In fact, for the most part, you put your jugs out, and whether it is covered in snow or not, it is quite fine. You just have to make sure that the jug is open, and occasionally you may need to add a bit of moisture to the container, not a lot, because as you know, with the greenhouse that the jug act as, it will maintain the moisture that is in the jug much longer. So you don't need to add a lot of moisture, but occasionally you may need to top it up. And if the plant starts to germinate and the growing season take a little bit longer than it should to start, then you may need to occasionally on those warmer days open the jugs, and then in the night when it is about to cool off, you may need to seal up back the jugs. And that don't mean putting covers on it. It just mean that cut section of the jugs you would open so that the plants can get sufficient air to keep them cool so that they won't get too hot in there. Okay, you sow them indoors. Okay. Yes. So the next advantage is that you don't really need to uppot these plants when you winter sow them, unless of course the growing season take an exceptionally long period of time to start, then you may need to uppot them. But in general, you don't need to do uppotting, which is something I don't really like to do. Mostly because when you uppot plants, and especially if you start way too early, then chances are you're going to be uppotting more than once. So I don't really like to uppot plants. And when you have to do it one time, two times, three times, it is affecting the growth of the plant because you're constantly disturbing the root of the plant and stuff like that. And the transfer shock that the plant has to endure each time you uppot it. So I don't really like hot potting. So that is one of the benefits of winter sowing in jugs. The next advantage is that when you sow in a jug, you don't need to have a greenhouse for those plants. So if you have a mini greenhouse and you don't have enough space to start all the plants that you want to start indoors or start in your greenhouse, then winter sowing is very advantageous because you can put the plants that has to be in the greenhouse and then put the rest in the jug. So you're actually making more space. Hi, Wood Chip Gardner, how are you? I haven't seen you in a long time. I hope all is well with you. Let's see. LP says, I figured the seeds that didn't germinate in the fall are now winter sown. Okay. I'm tempting you to try winter sowing again. Yes, I'm actually looking forward to it now that I know the right way to do it. I want to see how it turn out, if it's actually going to work for me this time around. There's no reason why it shouldn't, but you never know. Okay, yes, so the next advantage of winter sowing in jug is that you have less issues to deal with where garden pests are concerned, indoor pests, because when you start seedlings indoors, a lot of time we end up with different type of pests. We may have aphids, from indoor plants. We may have fungus gnats and other types of pests, but when you winter sow, most times you don't have that issue to deal with. And then the next advantage, sorry, is that the plant requires little or no hardening off because it is already out in the cold, getting used to cold from it was seed until it became a seedling. So very little, if any, hardening off is required. And that can save so much time because taking plants outdoors, something I don't like, and then you have to be taking them back in. Sometimes your schedule for the day is so busy that you don't even remember to take them back in, and then your plants get frostbite or they may even die. So that part of starting seedlings indoors, I do not like. So if there are plants that can be winter sown in jugs, then definitely I'll go that route, save myself a lot of the work. So this year, apart from winter sowing, I'm thinking of starting only the seeds that require a very long time or the plants that require very long time to reach maturity. Those are the only ones that I'm actually going to be starting indoors this year. So I'm going to be having less seedlings inside than I did last year. Save myself a lot of work. So some of the things can be direct sown and they will have enough time to grow to maturity. So for those things that can be direct sown with enough time to reach maturity, I'm not going to start them indoors. It's not really worth it that much because the hassle that the plants have to go through when you transplant them is just too much. So only the plants that require a longer growing season, I'm going to be starting indoors. No pieces. So true. Last year I was bringing trays in and out, in and out. Yes, it is a lot of work. And last year, oh my goodness, I had lots and lots and lots of plants that I started indoors. And I would make trips after trips. I had so many trips to make in a given day. And with my busy schedule, sometimes I had to be rotating them. And I know that, okay, these plants are going out today. Tomorrow, another set will be going out because I just didn't have the time to look after all of them. So anything that can be winter sown in jugs will be winter sown in jugs to save me that time. Let's see, Wood Chip Garden says, I have started my plants just to see if they will germinate and then I'll throw them away. Aww, poor plants. At least you can use them to make compost, or if you have worms, composting worms, then you can feed it to them so it won't be too bad. But yes, it even so, if you even if you can compost it or you can use it to feed your worms, it is still sad having to throw them out. Yes, it is sad. But anyway, at least you know that your seeds are viable. Oh no, why would you garden? Yes, I do that sometimes. Well, I've never really had to throw out any, but I do start seedlings way in advance. Like for example, my Scotch bonnet peppers, and last year when I was doing the sweet potatoes, I didn't really need to start them in November, but I started them in November just to see if they would make it. Yes, I didn't throw them out though. I ended up keeping them because those, it's not like they were going to grow out of size where they cannot be maintained. The good thing with growing things like sweet potatoes indoors is that you can always cut them back whenever they are getting too big. The disadvantage with a lot of these other plants though is that you can't really cut them back. Yes, and then the amount of space that they would take up if you allow them to grow to a large size, sometimes we just don't have enough space for them. So that is the disadvantage of starting them really, really early. But at least doing that test, you get to know if your seeds are viable and you have enough time to get new seeds in case the old ones are not viable. So, what about winter sowing in place? That has the same advantages as winter sowing in jugs, but it has a few more advantages that sowing in jugs do not have. For example, when you winter sow in place, number one, you do not have anything to transplant. You may have to thin out your plants, but at least you don't have anything that needs to be transplanted. So that is one advantage. And you know how it is sometimes, depending on the amount of seedlings that you start, it can take quite a bit of while to get all of those seedlings transplanted. So one of the advantages is that you don't really have to do any form of transplanting. And sometimes, depending on how you sow your seeds, or you direct winter sow those seeds, when you thin out your plants, you can actually allow them to grow to a size where they can be transplanted, and then thin them out. Those that you're thinning out, you would transplant as opposed to throwing them away. And the next advantage is that the plants are usually stronger when you direct winter sow them in place, because then they don't have to go through all the hassle of being transplanted. They are already hardened off in place. So those are the advantages of direct winter sowing over winter sowing in jugs. Okay, so some new faces are here. So, wood chip garden, do you winter sow in jugs? Or have you ever tried, have any of you on the live ever tried winter sowing in place? Let's see. Wood chip garden says, so I don't have to be surprised when they don't germinate. Okay, yes. Um, that is why I can focus my attention more, like one section of a tray in the winter versus a tray in the spring. Yes, that is true. That is true. Okay, so what's new? What's new with you guys? What's going on in your garden so far? Is your garden covered with snow? Is it warming up enough where you can actually start planting outdoors yet? I know that some people are able to start gardening in February, fortunately for them. Some are able to grow things year round, even if it is only cool weather crop that they can grow year round, but they are still able to grow some things year round, which is awesome. Let's see, LP says, I have hoop houses in which none of my fall crop survived. Oh, I'm sorry about that, my dear. If I sow seeds in them now, is that winter sowing? In a sense, it could be. If yes, in a sense, it could be because it's the same principle, right? You're sowing them outdoors and it's winter. Yes, they are covered underneath the hoop, but that is winter sowing. That is actually what you would call the direct winter sowing, because that's what direct winter sowing is. You plant it in place and then you have it covered with some form of plastic or dome. So it depends on what your hoop house is covered with. If it is covered with some form of plastic as opposed to some other form of fabric. Because if it is some other form of fabric, it won't provide that insulating quality, which is what you want for your winter sowing. Covered in snow. Yes, just like with your winter jugs, they can be buried in any amount of snow and they would still be quite okay. Okay, so your garden is covered with snow. Yes, mine is covered with snow too. I was actually thinking of maybe going out and getting some seeds direct sown out there. But I don't think that is gonna happen because the amount of snow that is covering my garden at the moment is just, it's no joke. I'm looking at my apple trees the other day when I went out there, and I can't see the trunk of my apple tree. I can only see the branched sections because they're not really all that big. They're about maybe 8, 10, 16 feet tall. So the 16 foot one, I don't know how much snow is around that because I haven't gone to that section of the garden yet. But the ones that are in the main garden, the trunk of the plant is about roughly 2 feet, and I can't see any of it. That's how much snow I have out there. We are kind of concerned that we're having some unusually cold weather, and then we're having some unusually warm weather. Like, for example, today is 2 degrees above Celsius. So we're thinking, what happens if this continue where we're getting these nice warm weather and then we're getting the severe cold weather? Last year that happened a lot, and we had a fall's early start to our spring. And so all of our perennial plants and the things that we sowed early started to sprout, and then it got cold and then those plants died. So we're wondering what if it happens again this year. The only good thing is that with the amount of snow that is out there, even though a lot of it will be melting, it might act as an insulation for those plants and prevent them from actually germinating, or if they germinate, they might keep them warm. But hopefully it doesn't happen that way last year, because it did wreck my tulips and my garlic and my scallions. And I won't say I'm not quite disappointed where that is concerned, but I guess that's just another part of life, right? We have no control over the weather. Let me see, LP says, I bought onion seeds today at the store because I couldn't behave myself. I think I have to start those and echinacea now, then peppers. Okay. Oh, yes, it's a good thing you mentioned your echinaceas. I'm going to have to look over my seeds because last year I bought myself quite a lot of seeds that I'm not used to growing. So, a lot of flowers that I attempted to grow for the first time last year. So, I'm not familiar with when is the best time to start them. So, I'm going to have to actually spend some time at the end of this month to go through those seeds and see when I need to get those started, because there were some of them in there that had to be started quite early. LP says my hoop hose have PVC frame covered with greenhouse plastic. Okay, yes, then it should work perfectly for your direct winter sowing. Yeah, I'm still haven't even set up my raised beds yet as hoop houses, because I want to do that, but time, where can I get some extra time? You guys have any extra time that you can spare? Send me some, because I mean, time just seems to be running away from me constantly. No matter how I readjust my schedule to get more time, it just doesn't seem to work. There's always something else coming up that requires attention. Okay, Morgan, you're getting a greenhouse put in right now. Oh, that is awesome. So, is it going to be a heated greenhouse or just a regular greenhouse? Okay, so you're new to growing echinacea. Yeah, you said you saw something. They said it needed 10 to 12 weeks. Is that 10 to 12 weeks start to grow to maturity to produce flowers? Or is that 10 to 10 weeks early before the last frost that you need to plant it? Let's see, LB says then yes, I'm going to do direct winter sow, but only short season crop. I'm in search of as well. I'll be sure to let you know if I find a good source. Okay, good. Yes. I would love to get my hands on a greenhouse, but if if I get my hand on a greenhouse, I would build myself one, and it would have to be a heated greenhouse because I want to be able to grow in it year round, but unfortunately where I am, I've used up all my growing space, all of my space that I can put any building on because in Saskatoon you're allowed to have buildings occupy two-thirds of your property, but you cannot have more than that on it. So I'm almost at the two-third range. So I'm not really able to put a greenhouse. And then if I put a greenhouse and I want to extend my garage, then I won't be able to extend my garage. So I have to give up one thing for the other. Okay, it needs 10 to 12 weeks indoors. That is a lot of time. Wow. Okay, then in that case, I think I would have to get started on it like right away. Let's see. In February. That's the second month, and March is the fifth month. And we can transplant outside in June. So, yes, if I get started on it now, then that might work. It's a good thing you're on the live sharing that information because I would have missed my chance. Yes, I'd probably have to go and buy seedlings, not yeah, from the garden center. They take 110 to 120 days to reach maturity. Okay. If I'm looking for more seeds, not really. I still haven't gone through the seeds that I have to know what I need, and I don't know what seeds I'm going to be getting from Connecticut Worms and Garden. So, what I do know that I need at the moment is comfrey seeds. Yes, so that is something I need at the moment, but I don't really know where to source those just yet. I'll have to look into where I can get some of those. But I don't really know what other seeds I need just yet. Let's see, LP says that's exactly what I'm thinking that I need to get them sown. Yes, I agree. If they're going to require 10 to 12 weeks, then you definitely need to get them going. But I'm thinking if I start them now, I'm going to need a green light. Green light. I'm going to need to use a grow light with them because 3 to 4 months. I don't know how long they take to germinate, but 3 months indoors, they're going to be pretty big. So they will be needing grow lights because the space that they're going to occupy my windowsill does not have that. Plus, it's going to be cold on the windowsill, so they might not grow as well as they should. So I think, yeah. Let's see. Helpy says, I hear comfrey is tough to get a hold of. They say it's probably best to get cuttings of some sort. Okay. Yeah. I've seen. I've seen last year. I saw some seeds somewhere that was selling seeds. Don't remember where. Um, There is one lady in Saskatchewan that I can get comfort cuttings from. I got some from her last year. The plant was doing pretty well, but I transplanted it so that I could get in my another raised bed. And after that, the plant didn't look so good, and it was close to fall when I transplanted it. So I don't know if it will survive. And in fact, it is the first year that I have it outdoors, the first winter that it's been outdoors. I know that it is perennial. So if it survived, if the transfer didn't affect it to the point where it died, then I'm expecting it to regrow. But just in case, I would like to get my hands on some comfrey seeds. And see, LP says that's my problem. Get setting up lights. When, where, and how. I want to grow a lot more peppers and tomato. Last year, on the dining room table, they grew really leggy. Says, I hope it survives. What will you be using it for? For me, I use it mostly for medicinal purposes, although it is a very good fertilizer, rich in nitrogen and other nutrients, because comfrey sends its root 4 feet or more down into the soil. So it is able to access all of those nutrients that other plants will not be able to access because it is sending its roots so deep. So because of that, it makes a very good fertilizer. So if I can get my hands on a lot of them for that reason, and then for medicational purposes because it is very good for cold and flus, and it's also very good for asthma. So mostly I grow it for that reason. Yes, me too, healthy. I want to grow more tomatoes and peppers this year. Last year, I attempted to grow quite a bit of the Roma tomatoes because I just love my Roma tomatoes for cooking and for making sauces and ketchup. The slicing tomatoes like beefsteak and those tomatoes, they're not really that nice for cooking and they're not really that nice for sauce. They do better in salads or stuff like that. But I didn't get plant as much as I want because I didn't really have enough space for them. And then unfortunately, a lot of the seeds that I planted because of the fungus knots, they died. So this year I'm hoping to have far more of the Roma tomatoes. And then as for the Scotch bonnet peppers, always talking about my Scotch bonnet peppers. Yes, I want to grow a lot more plants this year. So my Scotch bonnet peppers that I started maybe, I think it's 2 months now or close to. They're not doing so well. They haven't grown their true leaves yet. They have enough heat because in the day, well, I just started doing that in the last 2 weeks. In the days, I'll have them on the windowsill, which is cold, but they are directly above the vent on the windowsill. And then in the nights, I'll put them close to the heat vent so they can get the warmth. But they haven't even the tiny leaves that they have now, they are just so tiny, it's just almost the same size as if they just germinated. So I have another set that I just started about 2 weeks ago. Those germinated, so I'm going to be putting both sets under the grow light and just keep them close to the heat so that they will have a better chance. Morgan says, I heard it was a great fertilizer. Yes, it is a very good fertilizer. You can just cut it down and cut it up and put it around your plants. And it's very good if you want a quick nitrogen boost for your plants too. Or you can use it to make comfort tea or compost tea and use it to water your plants. But yes, it is, sorry, a very good fertilizer. See, I'm very interested in those purposes as well. I think this year I'd like to learn more about using herbs medicinally. Okay, I know that her healthy home, I don't know if you're familiar with her. She is into that a lot, using herbs to for medicinal purposes. So she has lots of videos on that. But yes, definitely I love growing herbs for medicinal purposes. Single pieces. I might wind up with a heating mat for my ginger and turmeric, or just put closer to a heat vent like you're doing with your peppers. Okay. Yes, the heat vent definitely works very well because last year was the first time I started putting my plants close to the vent. I try not to put it where the heat is blowing directly on the plant, but very close to it. So I actually had a stand that I made for that purpose and I put it over the vent. So it was about 6 inches off, high off the vent. So the plants that really love heat, I'd put it as close as possible to the vent, and then the ones that don't require that much heat, I'll put those further away. But yes, it worked pretty well because my peppers, they just grew like crazy. They grew pretty well indoors for that period of time that I had them over the vent. So I'm definitely going to be doing that again this year. The only thing is that I got rid of the stand that I made, so now I don't have a stand to use. So if I'm going to be doing that, everything is going to be just on the ground or something. But I'll figure something out. I still have a little bit more time to go because I don't, apart from my onions and the echinacea, I don't really have to start anything in February, so that should be good. Let's see. Okay, you say you follow her as well, but you're behind on everyone's videos. Yes, it is. It is a lot to keep up with when you follow a lot of YouTubers, and then because there are so many different things on YouTube that you're interested in, so trying to keep up with all of them can be work in itself. Why did I get rid of it? Well, it was taking up too much space and I had it in the spare bedroom. So as spring came around and I know that the possibility of me having visitors coming around, you don't really want to have a nice wooden structure in their room. Yeah, so I dismantled it and put it aside. So I don't know, maybe I'll build another one that is easier to dismantle and set up whenever I need it. I don't know. Time will tell. What am I going to be winter sowing? Um, Lettuces and brassicas. That's pretty much it for what I'm going to be winter sowing. So I'm going to be getting quite a lot of brassicas and lettuces from Connecticut Worman Garden. And I also have quite a bit of it here for myself, but she's given me some different varieties from what I have now. So those I'm going to be winter sowing to see how they how they will perform. But it's the first I'm going to be growing a lot of the ones that I'm going to be getting from her. So it will be interesting to see how it handles the winter sowing. And then she is in zone 5 and I'm in zone 3. So it will be interesting also to see how the seeds perform in the two different zones because I know that sometimes the seeds are treated or whatever it is that they do to the seeds to make it more hardy to the region that you're in. So it will be interesting to see how those seeds perform. Yes, new variety, definitely fun. I like to grow a lot of different varieties of the same thing because seeing the difference, especially when it is something that comes with different colors, because as most of you know, I don't really do a lot of flowers in my garden. Not because I don't love flowers, I do, but not time, but space. I don't have a lot of space. Well, based on my opinion, it's not a lot of space. So I'd rather have the vegetable than have the flowers there. So for that reason, I don't really have a lot of variety of colors in my garden. So when I can grow vegetables with lots of different colors, then that will help my garden to look even nicer. But last year I did attempt to grow quite a lot of different types of flowers. Didn't have much success with that. I had some success because I had tulips, yes, but unfortunately they didn't do so well because the weather here is so bipolar. So they started germinating way too early and then it got cold. But I still was able to see a lot of them or some of them bloom. And I had marigold for the first time. I had chrysanthemum for the first time and nasturtium. So those four didn't do too badly. And then I bought some wild mix, they call it. Yes, I had about 3 or 4 packs of wild mix, and I had a little patch where flowers always tend to grow close up to the house, just a few flowers. So I threw those out there, spread them out there, and nothing happened. I think I end up with maybe about 5 plants out of those 4 packs of seeds. I was quite disappointed, but I'm gonna try again with it this year because one of the two reasons why I want to grow the flowers apart from looking at their beauty is for the to attract the pollinators, and then I also want it because of the pest repelling properties that they have. So when I plant flowers, I don't really just plant them because they're pretty. I try to make sure that I can get more than one benefit from them. So when I'm buying seeds, I will look at what they have to offer before I actually decide. So for companion planting reasons, and then some of these plants are said to be edible as well. So yeah, but I'm gonna try again this year with those wild mix, and I'm going to be trying again with even more flowers than I did last year. We'll see what happens. Let's see. Help says, that's too bad. I planted a flower mix too, and then I couldn't tell what was weed. Yes. Where I sowed my mix, it is just right up against the house. And when we came here, when we bought the house, they had chives, lots and lots and lots of chives. And then there were a few Dutch elm plants, those disgusting plants, growing close to the house because Dutch elm, wherever the seeds drop, they will germinate. And once they start to grow, if you don't get rid of them quickly, then you're in big trouble. You're going to have to dig pretty deep to get to the root because whatever you see above the soil, you can know that the root is either that length or longer in the soil. So some of those plants, some of those Dutch elms were actually there when we bought the house. I didn't know anything about having to take them out, so they stayed there, and it was really difficult to get rid of most of them. Some of them I got rid of to an extent, and then they sprout from deep down in the ground. So still working on them. And then I had citrus thyme. That's the next seed that I want to get my hands on. Citrus thyme. When I saw it when we bought the property, I said, "This looked like thyme, but the color, something, it's not the same." I wasn't sure what it was, but it looks like thyme. It didn't smell like thyme. It smelled like citrus. So I made tea with it, not knowing what it was. Liked the taste of it, but I still didn't know what it was. It's only about 2 years ago, or it was last year, that I learned that it was actually citrus thyme. Unfortunately, in an attempt to redo my back lawn, I had covered everything with cardboard and then had it compost on top of it, so the citrus thyme died. Yeah, so it didn't, everything else spring up and try to make their way through the cardboard, but the thyme didn't make it. And I'm so disappointed because after I learned what it was, I really, really wanted to grow it, but I guess that's just life. Yeah, so I'm going to have to see if I can get my hands on some citrus thyme. I did look for seeds last year, but it's hard to find. It doesn't seem to be very popular in my region at all. Yes, haven't been able to find the seeds though, unfortunately. Let's see. LP says, that's not bad. I planted a flowers mix too. And okay, I read that already. And she says, such a good purpose. Last year I did that. Grew flowers for pollinators too. This year I hope to do even more. Borage is great for bees. I've never grown borage. I don't even know what it looked like, but more and more I am seeing more gardeners talk about it. So I might have to look into it to see what it is like and the benefits of it and stuff like that. But yes, definitely if it is good for the bees, because the bees in my region in the last 3 years Their population has been really, really bad. In fact, I wanted 4 years ago, I wanted to raise a bees, and I bought all the equipment that I needed, and then I ordered the bees, and it didn't work out. The worm, when I was supposed to go and collect the bees, I got a notice says, okay, come and pick it up in 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, just before I was to pick it up, they call and say, sorry, your order is not ready. And then they say, we'll notify you when it is ready. And then a week later, I got a call saying, they don't know when it's going to be ready. Then they said, okay, come and pick it up next week. And then they got, oh, sorry, your order is canceled. We have to refund you your money. And so, no, it's not just me. It was everyone who ordered bees. No one was able to get bees that year. And I don't know what happened. Some are saying that maybe there was a virus that killed the bees or something happened, but even though I asked, they weren't telling us what was happening. So up to this point I still don't know what happened. And I haven't really tried after that to get the bees. Mostly because, well, the following year I forgot about it, and then because there was a daycare next door to me, and my niece who was running the daycare is allergic to bees. And with all those kids there, I didn't really want to take the chance, but now she's not doing the daycare there anymore. So maybe I'll look into setting up a beehive again. That would be nice. Although I know my kids what they're going to do when they see the bees, they just run like crazy. Let's see. Let's see. LP says, I just found a company online called Strictly Medicinal Seeds, and they have comfrey seeds. Nice. Will ship to Canada, but at your own risk. Okay. So in that case, I guess I would try to order it in when it's warm enough. That way, at least I know the seeds won't freeze. Although comfrey is supposed to be winter hardy, perennial. Let's see. Morgan says, yeah, grow more citrus time. I would love to. I would definitely love to if I can find it. Let's see. LP says, funny thing is, comfrey is apparently part of the borage family. Oh, nice. Just read that. The flowers are edible. Yes. Wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know. So then, does that mean that the comfrey is good for attracting bees as well? Uh, Yeah, it would be interesting to see, but I've never seen comfrey flower. We grew comfrey when we were growing up, and I've never seen it flower. And we've had it for years, and I've never seen it flower. So I don't know. I was actually surprised when I was looking for comfrey seeds and saw the different types of comfrey, how many different varieties there were, and that they actually produce flowers. I was very surprised. But yes, I would definitely like to get my hands on some of those seeds. Let's see. LP says West Coast Seeds in Canada has borage seeds. Okay. That would be really neat if you had bees. Okay, yes. Such a sad story that they're not doing well or weren't. Yeah, so I don't know if well, I won't be able to order any for this year, any of the bees, because you have to make your order in January in order to get it in time. But we'll see. Maybe next year I'll attempt to. I had a friend who raised bees, an elderly friend, but I haven't been in touch with her for such a long time since COVID. Uh, I lost touch with so many people after COVID, but yes, it would be nice. And then that year too, when we weren't able to get her order of bees, she had been raising bees for years, and she said a lot of her bees just died that year. And quite a few people who raise bees said their bees died that year. So I don't know what happened really. So I couldn't even get bees from her because even if I could get a queen and just a handful of workers, that would be fine. I don't really have to have a lot of them, just a queen. And the good thing is that even if you don't have a queen, sometimes the hive will create their own queen. But who knows? We'll see. Maybe that's something I can look into for next year. I've always wanted to raise bees from decades now, but never really got into it. And a few years ago, I finally made the attempt, but unfortunately, through no fault of my own, here I am still not raising them. But I'll get there someday. It doesn't matter if I'm here or somewhere warm, I will get there someday. At least I hope. Yeah, so anyway, in the next 4 minutes or so, I'm going to be saying bye to you guys because I need to get to work. Yeah, so I already start prepping my winter jugs. I have quite a few, the 12 that I used last year, and I fully intended to use them this year again. I sterilized them, put them aside, and everything. But then the shed that I have them in outdoors, it was my intention to shovel the snow, but unfortunately, I've been advised not to be shoveling snow for this year. So the guy that we have shoveling our snow, Peter was the one who gave him the instruction as to where to shovel. And since he doesn't shovel snow, he doesn't know all the areas that I covered. So we end up not getting in front of the shed shoveled. So now I have about 2 feet of snow in front of my shed, so I can't access them. So I'm going to have to spend some time and make some new jugs or go out there and shovel the snow, which I don't want to do, especially since there's a lot of melting going on and refreezing. So I don't really have to deal with the ice. I have never used them. I've seen their name, but I don't really know much about them. Yeah, so I guess I could look into that. In fact, maybe I should write it down because I'm very forgetful. Yeah, so I will definitely look into that and see if I can get me some of those seeds. Yes, it would be nice if they had citrus time as well. But I'm going to be looking around. I'm going to be looking around to see if I can get my hands on the citrus time and all. Yeah, so I'm going to be getting some pineapple and the chocolate mint. Oh, I think I have a few chocolate mint seeds that I got from growing my own, but I shared it with someone else, so now I only have about 6 seeds remaining. Yes, I'm gonna see if I can get my hands on those pineapple mints. I'm going to be getting some of those, but the chocolate mint, I want more seeds just in case those 6 do not germinate. I think I'm going to sow them 2 separate times just in case one set doesn't work out, then the others might. Let's see. LP says, thanks for talking about this subject. You've got my wheels turning on winter sowing in place. Okay. Chocolate mint smells wonderful, and pineapple mint is beautiful, tasty too. Oh, I've never really tried them. I've only heard about them, but from what I've heard and just from the name of it, I want to try them. So it will be interesting to see what happens where that is concerned. The only thing is, am I going to be able to overwinter them? And if I can't overwinter them, are they perennial? Will they regrow in my region? Because perennial plants doesn't necessarily mean that they will come again in every region. It depends on how cold their region gets. So it will be interesting to see what happens, but I think I'm going to try and overwinter them. Hopefully they'll germinate and grow in the first place. And then I'll try to overwinter them to ensure that. I have the plants continually. The good thing is that they produce seeds, so I will try to grow them long enough. When I get the seeds, I'll plant them as early as I can so that they can produce the seeds and I can get those seeds to plant the following year. Last year, I grew mint, quite a few different types of mint, but I started them. Some of them I started indoors, some of them I started outdoors, but the growing season wasn't long enough. They started to produce the seeds, but the seeds didn't reach the maturity, so I don't have those seeds. So hopefully this year when I get my seeds, I can start them earlier, and then I might be able to get some seeds just in case they won't regrow. Okay, you'll find out if they will overwinter in your green stock or greenhouse. Yeah, so anyway, guys, it was really good talking with you. Thank you for participating in the live, sharing your experiences, or just simply listening. I do appreciate having you all here. So I hope to see you again on Friday and that you will have a wonderful week and stay safe. Let's see, Greenstock is a really cool virtual planter. That's where I grew my mint plant last year. Oh, never really heard of it, but it sounds interesting. Okay. Have a great week and stay well, everyone. Okay. So I'll see you again on Friday, all being well. Bye, all.